Hello everyone! So I thought I'd do a This Week in Stupid Extras stream, because I had an hour and I thought, oh, there are a few things I didn't get to go over in last week's episode, and honestly I didn't get to go over a few things from the week before either. So we'll take it easy and have a nice trip through this. So, 9/11 then. 9/11 Memorial stirs debate over Islamic terrorists. There is a complaint by a Muslim group called the Islamic Organization of the Southern Tier, which is a bizarre. It's like the Southern Poverty Law Centre. What do these words mean when strung together? Worries that the wording could encourage hatred towards Muslims living in the city, painting all Muslims with the same brush. Donald Castellucci, town supervisor for the city of Owego, says he doesn't see it that way. I don't live in a politically correct world. What? Okay. I live in a historical fact world, but I don't think anyone lives in a historical fact world, Don. Just so you know, I think it probably is a set of lies agreed upon. um, Whether it's American homegrown, Christianity, Islamic, you call it what it is. So the issue with this is that I don't actually think they're wrong to ask for this, and I know that's probably going to be like, what the hell? But there are actual reasons to not do this. Islam wants to treat itself as a monolith. The ideology itself, the political ideology of Islam, delineates between the Ummah and the Kafir, or the Kafara, however it's pronounced. The Muslims, the people, and the non-believers. And it would be in the best interests of people like the Islamic State, or any kind of Middle Eastern theocrat, to speak on behalf of the Muslims. So calling it Islamic terrorism, it kind of plays into that dichotomy. And it makes it sound like, well, this is terrorism that represents Muslims in general, not just some Muslims, which is more realistic and more accurate. And it's like if you've got sort of a pane of what's the frosted glass called? I'm sure there's a proper name for it. But if you had a pane of frosted glass and you put that over a book you're reading, you'd be able to see there are letters, but you wouldn't necessarily be able to read the words. But you'd know you were reading something. Saying, look, it's Islamic terrorism, it's a lot like that. It's if you remove this, if you go under this pane of glass, suddenly you can actually resolve in greater detail exactly what you're dealing with. And this is genuinely the issue with calling it Islamic terrorism. Also, if you were to say, I don't know, frame it in sort of maybe nationalist terms, because most of the hijackers on 9/11 were Saudi Arabian, weren't they? There were like 9 of them were Saudi Arabian or something. Framing it as a Saudi Arabian terrorist attack on the United States, that means that's a powerful thing to do, because if you say Muslims, then a tiny proportion of blame is laid on each individual Muslim. There are over 1 billion Muslims. None of them really care about this at all. In fact, it doesn't create any issues for them. It just kind of dissipates. Whereas if you would say this was Saudi Arabian terrorism, then suddenly the Saudi government, then they have to explain what's going on. They have to take responsibility for it. This is their magisterium. Of course, they. I mean, not only that, they're only like 23 million Saudi citizens. So any proportional blame is greater for each individual one. And I'm sure they don't want to be considered as terrorists. But the Saudi royal family, the government, have to take responsibility for this. And it would, of course, cause massive problems trying to explain exactly why their nationals are attacking the United States. It's all ancient history now, basically, so it doesn't really matter. But I do genuinely think there is not only in terms of accuracy of description, but also in terms of strategy against these people, against the Islamic State, against Islamists in general and Salafists in general. If by terming it in terms of Muslim, non-Muslim, it kind of frames it in the light of believer, unbeliever, good versus evil. It turns it into a great cosmic struggle, for which other Muslims who are not in any way, not even tangentially related to this, can suddenly jump in and say, you know what, I want to get in on this epic struggle that'll bring about the last day and the resurrection, all this other mumbo-jumbo that they believe. And so we can avoid that by just framing it more in the realm of international geopolitics, which, I mean, it might not be, but it might not be strictly speaking, but I really don't know. I don't think anyone knows. That's the problem. But I love, and this is probably my favourite one in the world. This is the problem with the in-group out-group dichotomy, right? Saudi Arabia's top cleric says that Iran's leaders are not Muslims. And it's like, look, of course he fucking does. This is literally not worth reporting on. And I love this guy. Look how handsome chappy he is. But that's such an asinine thing to print if you know anything about these people, if you know about anything about the Islamic world. Yes, the Iranians are Shias, the Saudis are Sunnis, and of course they don't consider each other to be real Muslims, or at least if it comes down to it. I mean, maybe they will, they are Muslims, but this is wrong Muslims. But if it comes down to it, when it comes down to the bottom line, no, we are the real Muslims, they are not the real Muslims. And what's the best thing that Iran's leaders say exactly the same thing about Saudi Arabia's top cleric? So their top cleric is revving up the kingdom's rhetoric against Iran, saying in comments published on Tuesday that Tehran's leaders are not Muslims, in response to rancorous remarks from Iran's supreme leader. The remarks by al-Sheikh came a day after Khamenei accused Saudi authorities of killing Muslims injured during last year's crush of crowds at the Hajj pilgrimage. If you don't remember, there was thousands of people died, actually, if I recall correctly, in the Hajj. The Hajj is an annual journey, pilgrimage, to Mecca, to go and pray at a pagan black stone, because they don't believe in idols, so they pray at a black stone for some reason. The confrontational comments mark a sharp escalation in the country's face-off as their spat plays out across the region. Khamenei, in remarks published on his website Monday, said, "The heartless and murderous Saudis locked up the injured and with the dead in containers. Instead of providing medical treatment and helping them, or at least quenching their thirst, they murdered them." That's very interesting. Where's the bit where they actually... here we go. The top Saudi cleric was quoted saying that Khamenei's marks are not surprising because the Iranians are the descendants of the Majus, a term that refers to Zoroastrianisms and those who worship fire. The Zoroastrians didn't actually worship fire. It was... Oh my god, it's been a long time since I read about this. I'm sure it was meant to be used as a focal point, in the same way that idols in Hinduism were. But I would have to check that, actually, now that I think about it. But I don't think they actually worshipped fire, although they did consider fire sacred and cleansing and pure. We must understand that they are not Muslims, for they are the descendants of Majus, and their enmity towards Muslims, especially the Sunnis, is very old. See, this is the first step in the process of delegitimization. When you are trying to suggest that one group is legitimate and another isn't, which almost everyone does, because this is just a reflection of Western partisan politics, right? I know this because I get called right-wing constantly, as if me being right-wing would change any of my arguments or any of the things that I've said, or invalidate the proof I have for what I'm trying to say. As if just merely being in a different category invalidates someone. But that's the problem with this kind of tribalistic thinking. It does, in the minds of people who think, well, if you are an X, if you're a non-believer, a Zoroastrian or whatever, it's okay because you're in the out-group now. And that is the beginning of cult thinking, when you've got the dichotomy between the in-group and out-group, and then you devalue the out-group. And that's what he's doing here. I mean, these people do terrible things. They are not Muslims. They hate Muslims. And I imagine that these people don't really tolerate much dissent on the subject. I mean, how much do you think the top Saudi Arabian cleric is really going, well, maybe we should consider the other side of the story? And it's just a bitch fest back and forth with this, actually. It's quite amusing, really. It was only 111 people in Mecca. That was a different earlier crane collapse. Oh, no, it was, yeah, sorry. In 2015, it was 2,426 people who died, which was pretty terrible, with 464 of them being Iranian. And so, I mean, weird that they'd go there if they weren't Muslims. But, yeah, he also said that Saudi rulers promote sectarian strife and arm wicked takfiri groups, a reference to extremist Sunni militants who denounce other Muslims as heretics and non-believers. To be fair, though, that's literally everything every different Muslim sect does. They all say this. Maybe not every single one, hashtag not all, Jesus fucking Christ. But all of these sects have people in them that do exactly this. And the whole purpose is a strategy of delegitimization. Don't listen to them, listen to me, because I'm the real Muslim. And the amusing thing for someone outside of Islam is just watching these Muslims just bitch and moan about tiny, irrelevant theological differences. And literally, it's like a slap fight. It's like, no, I'm a real Muslim. No, me. As they slap each other. It's, as far as I'm concerned, you're all real Muslims. You all have your own interpretations of the Quran, and God isn't real. So, the burqa ban. And we're not talking about the burkini ban specifically, because these are just the countries that have banned the burqa. You'll notice that most of them are European, but some of them are African, and one is Turkey, and for at least partial bans. Now, it's interesting that the French have been banning these things not because of terrorism. The French have been getting terrorism with or without the burqa and the burkini, which they banned in 2004, the burkini earlier this year. The reason the French have been doing it is for, literally, as Sarkozy says, they were not welcome in France because they just don't represent French culture. And they literally risk a huge fine for wearing the burqa in France. So I'm tempted to go there and do it just to piss them off, but I don't want to pay a huge fine. So, But the French are doing it for cultural reasons. They don't want the Islamization of France, and I don't blame them. Why the hell would they? Same thing in Belgium, and I think the same thing in the Netherlands. But in the Netherlands... no, it's not the Netherlands, sorry. Here we go. In Chad, an African country. So they've been banned from wearing the full veil since 2 suicide bomb attacks in June 2015. The same in Cameroon, it's for security because of suicide bombings. And in Niger, the same problem. And in the Congo, the same problem. Now, I think these are mostly... I know the Congo is mostly a Christian country. I think Niger probably is too. I'm not sure about Cameroon and Chad. And Turkey, incidentally... Well... Until 2013, there were rules banning women from wearing headscarves in the country's state institutions. Now they can wear a veil everywhere. I think it's important to... in fact, they've got a good bit here, in fact. The burqa is not something that is actually Islamic. It's treated as an Islamic dress code, but I did some research on this, because I was going to put this into This Week in Stupid, but I didn't have time or the room. And so I was doing research on this, and it turns out there are basically 4 pieces of headwear, but there are only 3 that are really popular. The niqab, the hijab, and the burqa. The hijab is a scarf that goes over the head. It's the most common thing, and this is not in any way an Islamic dress. This is something that ancient Romans and ancient Greek women would have worn as well. In fact, I mean, ancient Athens, you wouldn't know you weren't in Saudi Arabia by looking at the women. The women were deeply oppressed in ancient Athens, and to be fair, Roman women were pretty fucking oppressed too, but not nearly as badly. And many other Greek cities were like this. The niqab it's just, in many ways, it's a method of signifying that the woman wearing it isn't like a lady of the night. They are, in fact, a respectable married woman, and you need to treat them with respect. Prostitutes didn't wear hair coverings and things like this. As far as I can tell, that is what is mentioned in the Quran. I think is it Surah 24? Let me just I think it's Surah 24 that talks about modesty. Oh god, am I actually I'm going to use Wikipedia for this? It's disgraceful. Right, okay, I'm going to use Wikipedia, so shoot me. Right, so yeah, it's Surah 24:31. They say, "And say to the believing women that they should lower their gaze and guard their modesty, and they should not display their beauty and ornaments except what must ordinarily appear thereof. That they should draw their khimar," which, that means a covering. So, I mean, literally curtains can be described as khimars. Tablecloths can be described as khimars. They're not... This isn't a specific dress item, as I understand it. They draw their covering over their breasts and may not display their beauty except to their husbands, fathers their sons, their husbands' sons, their brothers of their brothers' sons, or their sisters' sons, or their Muslim women, or the slaves whom their right hands possess, or the male servants freed from physical needs, castrated male slaves, basically, or small children who have no sense of the shame of sex, and that they should not strike their feet in order to draw attention to their hidden ornaments. That's basically it. Be modest. That doesn't say dress in a fucking bin bag with an envelope slot across your eyes, or worse, with a grill so people can't literally, so nothing of your body is on show. Don't get me wrong, right? I understand why things ended up going this way as well, because if you start putting this as like, no, this is a noble goal to cover up, be modest, and not be, don't be a whore. Come on, just don't be a whore is what they're saying. Then you're going to get people who are like, well, if this is the goal, is to be modest, then surely the most modest person has got social status over those people who are being less modest. And so a woman who's even more dressed up is going to be able to look down her nose at women who are dressed a little bit more loosely. Yeah, I can see some of your neck under that hijab there, you whore. And this is how these things happen. And so I think that the burqa was probably as much the consequence of women deciding to cover up, to be more modest than other women and be more Islamic than other women. But I mean, there are probably many forces, but I think that's certainly one. But the reason I bring this up is because the Islamic State has banned the burqa in northern Iraq after a veiled woman kills 2 jihadists. So they've banned the burqa because of terrorism, which amuses me greatly. There's a bit here. The burqa appears to have originated in Persia in the 10th century before slowly spreading to the Arabian Peninsula and present-day Afghanistan and Pakistan. In Arabia, the niqab was promoted by Wahhabis. The Wahhabis didn't come around until like the 18th century. So yeah, the burqa isn't... It's not standard Islamic wear, and it's not something that's mandated in the Quran or the Hadiths either. So it's a cultural item, which is why the Islamic State are perfectly confident to ban it, because the Islamic State are sort of Quranic, and I imagine they probably follow the Sunnah as well, but they're like purists. They literally may as well be spouting Protestant rhetoric, saying Scripture alone, none of the trappings of the Catholic Church that have built up around it, and that's what the burqa and the niqab are. These are sort of institutional trappings that have built up around the religion that aren't really specified in the religion. But I do find it very amusing. But the thing is, what I find really weird is that in a seeming U-turn, the Islamic State has reportedly banned women wearing the burqa in northern Iraq. Well, if it's not in the Quran, they can't be U-turning on it, because they are Quranic literalists. So it's not really a U-turn. But yeah. So, once you've got a cultural item, then obviously people end up doing it anyway. But it's not mandated. Let's have a quick cup of tea, or a drink of tea, because all this desert is making me thirsty. Seriously, I do wonder, when I leave England and I go to somewhere like Greece or the Middle East or something like that, it's weird being around. It's weird being in countryside, in just an environment where you don't have the sort of lush greenery of England. I like it at first, and then after a week or two, I'll start to miss just the atmosphere and the way the countryside looks in this country. And when I come back, I genuinely find myself really excited to fly over the rolling fields and the trees and the hedgerows. And they strike me as things of great beauty after I haven't been around them for a long time. I feel the same when I go to like London or something. It's just a giant concrete metropolis. It's like, oh, I just couldn't. I like London, but I couldn't. Well, I kind of like London, but I couldn't live there, my whole life. I can't imagine how people deal with it. Miles and miles of city, but it's the same thing with this. I tend to miss the countryside. I'm kind of a town guy. I like a decent sized town that is not far from the countryside. But I always wonder if people from like Arabia, do they miss the sand? Do they look around and go, I've missed the burning heat and the scorching sand under my feet and the fact that there's nothing but sand for hundreds of miles. Do they miss that? Is it almost like romantic in their heads? I do wonder. But anyway, to Swedistan. Swedish companies will be fined if they don't have enough women on their boards. Ah, of course they will. Of course they will. I mean, this is. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? You have no reason not to hire a woman just because there is a more qualified man, or maybe there aren't enough women applying, or something like that. And I love that this is. Look, the Swedish government is drafting a law that could lead to fines for listed companies which fail to allot at least 40% of their board seats to women. Why 40%? Why 40%? What a fucking arbitrary number that is. Why not 30? Why not 10? I mean, if you're looking for equality, quote unquote, then you surely would need at least 50%. I mean, you would have to have it sort of like dead on 50%. So you've got 5 men, 5 women on your board. If a man quits, you literally are not allowed to hire a woman. I mean, not that I'm saying this is why I'm totally against equality of outcome and all of these sort of quotas. This is stupid. It's ridiculous. You might be literally going, okay, I need to hire someone. I have to hire a man. But holy shit, this woman is so unbelievably well qualified. And if I don't hire her, she's going to go to one of my competitors. And then what are you going to do? Nothing, because you have to hire a fucking man. But of course, they would never have that law. Sorry, what was I thinking? They would never have that law because, you know, it's okay if it's like 70% women and like 30% men. Not okay if it's the other way around. So, if approved, the law will enter the statute books next year, and enforcement begin in 2019. And it would allow for fines of between 250,000 and 5 million kroner, which is 26,000 euros to about 500,000 euros, depending on the size of the company. I mean, if you're a fairly small company, 25,000 euros is a hell of a fine. It's just, you know, I mean, normally when you put down an investment like that, it's something that you're expecting a big return from if you're a small company. So to just have 25,000 euros just sucked out of your company because of an arbitrary number that some feminist politicians in Sweden's parliament have decided this is how we're going to do things. What a piece of shit. And literally, what if you can't get these people? What happens? And I'm serious, because there are industries where women simply do not apply for the jobs. There was John Carmack with the 3D? Was it the Oculus Rift? And some harpy feminist jumps up and goes, "Oh, well, I notice you don't have any representation of women on your panel and stuff." And I wish I had the video at hand. I didn't think I'd be bringing this up. I wish I had the video at hand, because the look on their fucking faces, they were typical nerd men confronted with a feminist, and they were deers in the headlights. They had no idea what they were doing, but I think it was Carmack, I'm sure it was him. He turned around and said, "Look, the problem we're having is that women simply aren't applying to work for us. So what can we do?" And, you know, obviously in feminist land, women would simply be forced to work for these people. They would have no choice. But yeah, in particular high-tech niche industries, these people simply don't have that option. And I'm sure it's the other way around as well. I mean, I'm sure if you would say we need a quota of 50% male nurses, I imagine that'd be a hell of a difficult thing to fill. I mean, maybe not in Sweden, admittedly, but, you know, maybe somewhere where the men still have their testicles, that would be a difficult thing to fill because it's considered to be a woman's job. Men don't really want to be nurses. Men don't tend to go for, like, caring jobs in general. They tend to go for productive jobs, whereas women tend to go for service jobs. And, oh my god, that's some terrible inequality that must be fixed, obviously. But that's just life. You know, that's the result of a free society. You need to... And this is something I always found weird. In a free society, why would you expect things to be, quote-unquote, equal? You wouldn't expect things to be the same unless you thought people were the same. And if you thought people were the same, why would you need a free society? We have a free society because we know people are different and they are prone to follow their natural inclinations, which are different to each other. You know, everyone has unique, well, not necessarily unique, but everyone has their own natural inclinations and they want to follow them. Some people of a certain type of person, like in old men or something, they have certain natural inclinations. Young women have certain natural inclinations. Not all of them, obviously. For some reason I have to keep fucking saying that, as if exceptions to the rule don't exist or something. but yeah, so it's okay. You would expect things to wind up at the end with just different numbers. You wouldn't expect the same everywhere. Unless you want to turn around and say, well, okay, well, now people aren't allowed to follow their natural inclinations. So in a free society, what else do you expect than people to follow their biological preferences? You know, I don't understand what one would be expecting if one is in a free society other than that. I mean, unless that is to deny that biology exists, you know, as if biological preference and determinism, it's not like, you know, the be-all and end-all, but it certainly creates incentives. And given an open society and a free society, I imagine the majority of people will follow those incentives because they're being incentivized to do so. But, I mean, what would I know? I'm just some fucking pleb with an internet connection and a YouTube channel. I don't know anything about this. I mean, it's not like I speak to fucking evolutionary biologists or something evolutionary psychologists, and they're like, yeah, well, that's exactly how it is. And it's, oh, okay, makes sense. And there are scientists who say that. But let's believe in the tabula rasa. Is that how it's pronounced? The blank slate theory, where people are just socialized. Everything is socialized. But I like the justification here. It's as much a question of competitiveness as of equality. Sweden has been able to use all its skills. What you're saying, by saying that, my good chum, is that Swedish men are hideously sexist. They have been looking at these CVs and saying, bloody hell, look how skilled our women are. However, the key word here was women, and we're not going to hire them. We're going to hire a less qualified man. Because we don't really mind not being competitive, we mind having vaginas in our boardroom. Obviously, this is ridiculous, and just the everything about this is just, it's ideological. That's the thing. It's not based on any kind of real world like issue or a real world concern. As if there are companies who are literally, look, our profits are down for this quarter. I think, all the evidence we have is that it's simply we don't have enough women on our board. That's why our profits are down. As if that would ever be the fucking case. You know, as if... that would only be the case if maybe it was like a makeup company. It was a bunch of boorish men who had no fucking idea what women were into with makeup. And so literally hadn't consulted a single woman, being their target demographic for their sales. And then, maybe, I could understand that, yeah, maybe then it would be that there literally aren't enough women in the company to give a woman's opinion on this. Because it's something that was being sold to women. But if it's not that, if it's like a pharmaceutical company or something like that, or IKEA, or wherever, obviously, what's the fucking difference? What difference did it fucking make, honestly? And I love what I love about this as well is that there are so many people agreeing, so many people who they're not really thinking about any of this. They're just like, well, of course we should have 40% women. Well, we're not sexist. We don't discriminate against them. Like, well, you're not thinking any further than your ideological position. That's my problem with it. You've put the goggles on and then you're like, right, okay, well, I may as well just weld them to my face because I never need to look at anything else through any other goggles, do I? So there was a porky autistic girl, undiagnosed autistic girl, I'm so sorry, Mike, that decided to go on the BBC and flap her pork flaps.
I think anyone who's not a feminist is an insane person.
Look at her expression. Oh, Jesus, Amy. Oh, they say Amy Schumer isn't funny. Jesus Christ, she is hilarious. Just that. Oh God, she looks like she's genuinely made of luncheon meat, doesn't she? Just, how could you not be part of my religion? Are you calling me a heretic, Amy? Just out of interest.
I think they don't know what feminism means.
Oh no, they just don't know. Did they look it up in the dictionary? Do you want to get in the dictionary and quick, look this up, look. Oh yeah, feminism. It's about equality. Well, thank fuck. Now we can go hate all those cuntish men all we want.
I mean, it just means equality.
That's all it means. That's all.
Like for women.
Yeah. Sorry. Say again.
Equality. Like for women.
Yeah, equality for women, but not for men. That's equality to you. I mean, that literally that's your impression of equality, is the idea that it just applies to women. Equal. God, these people are so frustrating, aren't they? Just look. This is what a supremacist would say. If you want equality, then you would have to look at both sides of the aisle and say they need this to become equal to us, and we need that to become equal to them, and so this is what we should do. And, I wouldn't even be that bothered by that. If that was feminist goal, even if it was a bit authoritarian and a bit collectivist, I'd say, well, it's not the end of the world. And, at least maybe it'll shut them up. I mean, and at least it's being fair. But it's not. It's absolutely not. It's being totally unfair. And they don't even care. They don't even see it.
But I think that word has a whole different meaning
It's not a very good word then, is it? I mean, seriously, that's actually a really terrible word. I think the purpose of words is that other people know what they mean. So when you speak them, people can understand your meaning. This is actually one of my problems with... I'm going to do another Why Everyone Hate Feminism on the co-option of words. Just the adoption and co-option of words. Subversion of the English language. And I love the idea that this feminist is now sat there going, well, I mean, it means different things to different people. Okay, it's meaningless. It needs to mean the same thing to everyone, so we all understand what you're saying when you say that word, because if we don't, the word is fucking useless. It is absolutely useless. God, she looks like she's just spotted a hamburger, doesn't she?
And so someone will say to me, like, you're not a feminist, are you? And I'm like, what does that mean to you? Like,
Obviously means a bigot, doesn't it? Obviously means a female supremacist. So go on.
of course I am.
Yeah, of course you are.
Of course I want equal
Of course you do.
rights for women.
Yeah, but don't worry about those equal rights for men.
And what does that mean? What are they?
Oh, look, let me break out my dictionary again. It's actually a copy of the Road to Serfdom, but it's the only book I had to hand. Actually, I use my dictionaries online, alright? Shut up. And this is why I'm going to be called right wing, because I dare read something that's done by a classical liberal. But okay, sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about now, Phil.
They say that. They seem like they didn't know that. You know, I mean, I really think a lot of people don't know what it means.
Yeah, but do you not think they're kind of observing feminists in their natural habitat and thinking, Christ, you know, when you adopt that religion, you become, well, second to a suicide bomber, I suppose. So, I mean, what do you think they're supposed to get from it when you're running around demonstrating that you hate men? I mean, your act is just vile. Why would anyone look at you and go, God, I want to be a feminist?
So, you know, just words and
What are you, campaigning for Hillary?
but whatever the definition is that they were thinking, I don't know that I'm not that thing. I don't.
Oh my God, that's an incredible amount of self-awareness. You don't, because you don't have a definition for anything, but you also don't because you probably are.
You know, it's like, yeah, but I feel very comfortable speaking as a comedian and a feminist because, you know, those are two things that I completely am.
And you've also lost any sense of shame?
So, yeah, those are two words that definitely define me, so.
But, I mean, I suppose you can at least define comedian. You did make me laugh, but you can't define feminist, so how is that going to define you? How does that define you? God, do you know what I love? Is that comedians are normally funny, intelligent people, right? You have to be quite smart to be a comedian, to make people laugh, to understand what it is that's going to make people laugh. And then you get people like Amy Schumer, who are clearly not funny in any way, but still make me laugh. And just don't really seem very intelligent at all. And so when you're having like some celebrity interview with a woman who just looks like a salami stick, and she's just giving you gibberish, I mean, what value does this have? You know, why? I bet the BBC presenter was just, I mean, look at it. Oh, yeah, her humour's going to be gross and edgy, guys. Look, it's totally feminist. But just, the BBC must have walked away from that going, fuck, how are we going to spin this out into an article? You know, how the fuck are we going to spin Amy Schumer kind of doing her best Miss Piggy impression into a whole bloody article? I'm being paid for this. So, this was one I've been looking forward to getting into for a while. Oh fuck, this is actually from 2015. So, fuck it. I'm on it now. Right. So, apparently there literally aren't enough men out there. Not long after he turned 30, writer John Berger realised he and his wife knew a lot of women who go out with arseholes and constantly dates below her league, and is on the verge of giving up on a committed relationship altogether because she can't find a man she likes. The couple didn't have a lot of single male friends left, but many single women they knew all seemed to be buyers stuck in a seller's market. Uh-oh. Oh no. I'm not saying that I've read my hair or anything, but I can see where the market value is dropping here. One of those friends, Berger told me, had been dating a guy for a couple of years. It certainly seemed like they were well on their way to getting married. She was in her late 30s. He was in his mid-40s. She really wants to have kids. Get married, the whole thing, and she's amazing in every way. I'm sure she is brilliant. If she was that brilliant, why didn't someone marry her when she was in her 20s? That's just a question. If she's genuinely that brilliant, I mean, what was preventing her from getting married? But one day at lunch, Berger casually asked her about her boyfriend. Whole expression changed. They had just broken up. They had been dating for over 2 years, and he just wasn't ready to settle down. Yeah, that's what they'll tell you when they want to break up, because you want marriage. This got Berger, a former economics writer for Fortune and Money, thinking. Now this, oh my god, this is exactly what Socrates was talking about. He went to the poets and was like, okay, tell me something that's not poetry, and they don't know what they're fucking talking about. He went to the artisans and was like, right, tell me something about poetry, and they don't know what they're talking about. People should stick to their fucking disciplines, I guess, is the answer. Because an economics writer for Fortune and Money isn't going to know anything about this on the merits of his qualifications, so why the fuck bring them up? None of his qualifications are going to be anything to do with why men aren't marrying women. But okay, anyway, let's carry on. So, how could a man of that age be so cavalier about casting aside such an amazing woman? Well, I can tell you why. He has other options, and she doesn't. That's why. In a nutshell, that is exactly why. He knows she isn't his last chance. She thinks he is. That's it. Because his value is going up as he goes older, and her value is going down. There's no doubt that there is a sexual marketplace, and people have value within it, and it's based on certain factors, and as women get older, they start strong and go down, men start weak and go up. That's the way it's always been, it's the way it's always going to be. Literally, biology mandates it. I don't think it's ever going to change. I suppose you can end up getting just the betaest of beta men, and so they never actually gain any sexual market value? Any value in the sexual market, I suppose? I mean, there are definitely men like that. I'm looking at you, Will Wheaton. And why do we all have... Seriously, you're on TV. You're the least attractive man that any woman's ever seen. Why do we all have similar stories of incredible female friends trapped for years in dating hell? Why are there so many great single women? Where are all the great single men? Well, there aren't that many great single women. That's the thing. You lie to yourselves because they're your friends, but if you were to not know these people and you met them, you wouldn't be very impressed with them. And I'm sorry, I've been there. You know, I know what it's like. I've had these single friends who have been like this, and I'm like, okay, well, there's a reason that I'm not dating them. You know, the reason we're friends and not lovers. It's that you're gonna have to start reevaluating exactly what it is people are looking for. Because, in fact, I'll let them carry on because they'll get to it. So, using his background in economics and statistics, Berger sought out an answer to male-female relationships. The result is his recent book, Datanomics: How Dating Became a Lopsided Numbers Game, a clever read with a sobering conclusion. There simply weren't enough, and this is the really important bit, college-educated men to go around. For every 4 college-educated women in my generation, there are 3 college-educated men. The result? Well, hang on, let's not worry about the result, let's ask why the fuck that is. I mean, if feminism is an equality movement, how is it there are so few educated men in comparison to educated women? I mean, that's not equality, is it? That's supremacy. The very thing that feminists were complaining about. But here we are. And now, look at that. Be careful what you fucking wish for. You know what? We want women on top. We want women to be the majority of this. We want women this. We want that. Oh shit, we actually needed something from men. We needed something from men. We needed them to be better educated, or at least as educated as us, because otherwise we're marrying down. And no woman wants to marry down. No fucking woman wants to marry down. At all. Men don't mind it, because they're used to being the head of the household, I suppose. I imagine there's some natural inclination to be the head of the household, but women, they won't marry down, man. It's... You know what cracks me up about these women? They're going to have to just get used to getting the sort of 20-something cabana boys that they pay through the nose for, and they're leaving them every 3 or 4 years. That's what they have to do. Just like men, in fact. Just like rich old men, when they get the sort of Anna Nicole Smiths. It's literally what we've got now, love. But this is Musical Chairs of the Heart. As the men pair off with partners, unpartnered straight women are left with fewer and fewer options, and many of them are eventually left with no options at all. I'm just waiting for the part where I'm supposed to give a shit. So what? That's their problem. That's not my problem. They made their choices, and their choices ended up leaving them alone. What do you want me to do about that? I've got a wife. I'm not marrying these people. I'm not. What? Who cares? It's their problem. I mean, Is this I mean, maybe this is self-help for single, lonely old women. Maybe. So he goes on about the man deficit against college educated. I'm not really worried about that. We know it's true. We know that there are more women at universities than men, and getting better educated than men in some cases. Well, quote unquote better educated. They're certainly doing their gender studies degrees. And then in addition to this, and again, this isn't from last week, this is from 2015, I do apologise. This group of straight men is swearing off women. And is that Lauren Southern interviewing a MGTOW? What is this? Okay, look, I have some experience with the MGTOW community. I think they're generally alright. So there are some genuine woman haters in there, and not all of them. Some of them are just badly hurt people, but there are a bunch of genuine woman haters. But in general, the philosophy, I can't really argue with it. They want a philosophy of non-interaction. They don't want to interact. Okay, that's, you know, I can't. That's, if feminism was like that. I mean, it's like Black Lives Matter saying, you know, we need to not talk to white people. It's hilarious and anti-MLK, but if that's what they want, I would never try and impose myself or white people on them, in the same way that I don't think these people should have marriage or feminists or women or whatever imposed on them. If they, you know, genuinely want to stay out of it, they can. Dressing like this, though, are you wearing fucking lipstick? Is he wearing fucking lipstick? This trans MGTOW or something. I mean, what is this? What is this? What are you doing? For the love of God, man, just get a fucking grip. But yeah, this was an article talking about MGTOW and Japan's herbivore men. So not only are men simply not as well educated, and there aren't enough well educated men for the well educated women to go for, they're going to have to start going for the, you know, those crass, uneducated, lower class pleb men if they want anything. Well, it's going to be single. And apparently they would rather be single than go for a lower class man. It's not like there are in raw numbers less men. It's that these women simply want men of same status or higher. And, you know, that's fine. If that's what they want, that's entirely their choice. You know, why shouldn't they make that choice? But you make choices, there are consequences. And, you know, like this chap, he made the choice to go out dressed like this with fucking lipstick on, and the consequences is that I look at him like he's a fucking loon. But it's the same principle. But, yeah, it's, you know, the same problem in Japan with herbivore men, where they're just being married, being in relationships, it's not worth the hassle to these people. And they don't need to do it. They don't have to. They're not as compelled to find a partner as they are to enjoy their own lives. And again, I really do. I mean, there's something to that. What more men should think less selflessly, because there are a lot of men out there who go through every day in this kind of prison of selflessness, where they have responsibilities to others. And I've spoken to a lot of MGTOW, and they say that they see this. They see how men become obligated to everyone but themselves, and they spend their lives self-sacrificing, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. They just get mocked, like I'm mocking this guy. And they, in fact, here's an image that sums up what I'm saying. And they don't want to do this. And I'm not surprised, especially given the lack of respect that men seem to get in society now. I'm not surprised that there are men who are just like, you know what, that's not worth my time. And in fact, I have too much self-respect to go down that road. You know, if you're a man and you aren't, and if you're the breadwinner in a relationship and you're not the person making the decisions in the relationship, then I think you should reconsider that relationship, or at least your position in it. I genuinely would. If you're putting in all the work and you're not the one calling the shots, why the fuck would you do that? And you know, if you're with someone who wants to call the shots and you want to call the shots, then then you need a different person. You're incompatible. You need to find someone who is, you know, willing. And conversely, if you want someone to call the shots for you, that's fine. You'll find someone like that. You know, you can't be in a relationship with someone who is also, I don't want to say submissive, because it has the wrong connotation, doesn't it? But if you're in a, you know, someone who's happy to let the other person take the lead, you can't have two people who want to let someone else take the lead in a relationship. It's not going to last. It's not going to be a happy relationship, because they're not going to give each other what they want. But anyway, I think this was the one. Yeah, August 25th, 2016. This is why I looked these things up, to give some sort of a bit more context to him. Feminism has enabled my husband to be lazy and selfish. I'm just going to let that just hang there for a minute. Isn't that just brilliant? But feminism's perfect. It's the religion of peace. How could this have happened? In fact, I can't stop myself from laughing at this. I'm so sorry. I always thought feminism was about choice, educating young women and supporting them in various ways as they grow into adults, so they can be accepted and successful in any pursuit they desire. Well, and that is what's happened. I thought that historically society's default role for women was that of homemaker and caretaker. Yes, and it wasn't without reason. I was brought up to be thankful that feminism has given me the choice to be successful out of the home, and I was educated and supported and encouraged accordingly. You know, it's interesting is that women did have careers before feminism. It was just less ordinary. But there was nothing stopping them. You know, there were no rules in like Britain or America in like the 1940s that said you couldn't get a job. You know, legally you didn't have to be paid equally. It's true, you know. You would have undoubtedly had children, because most women did have children, and you undoubtedly would have had pressure, and your husband would have been expected to be the breadwinner, but there's nothing actually stopping you from doing that. If you can make it happen, you could have made that happen. I mean, I was speaking to someone the other day who was saying his, I think it was his grandmother or great-grandmother went to university in like the 1920s, and oh my god, if feminists would have you believe that their worldview is true, how did that happen? How did a woman go to university in the 1920s? I mean, that's you'd think that, Jesus Christ, wasn't she chained to the sink pumping out babies? How could she possibly have done this? But anyway, and honestly, there is a lot of Schadenfreude here for me, because I've been saying this for a long time. Right? I've said this for years, that working is something that people should be trying to opt out of. You know, I don't really understand the desire to go and work in an office cubicle under about 4 layers of management for 8+ hours a day, and then to go home and feel that you're not being paid enough, and feel that you're not working for yourself anyway. You're not getting to anywhere. You're just sort of treading water and going along. I don't see how it's fulfilling in any way, shape or form. And it's the reality for millions of people, and it's apparently the reality for this woman, where she says, I currently work a soulless 9-to-5 job. I got my bachelor's degree in mass media, and my professional history is mainly working as some variety of receptionist or front office staff in typically male-dominated workplaces. Kind of seems like a waste, doesn't it? The first and only place I ever worked that mostly women was in, and another previously male-dominated industry. What industry is that? Shut up, stop waffling. Stop wasting my time. I've always done my job primarily for the paycheck. Yes, that's a shallow and hollow life, isn't it? Where all you're doing is working for your paycheck, and you don't feel that you have anything you're actually striving towards, anything good you're really doing. You're just punching numbers on a form or whatever, and then fucking handing it in. That's it. But she says, that is, I've always done my job as a means to take care of myself and my responsibilities, and I've been thankful for the plethora of jobs now open to women so that I may do so. Why are you thankful for this? This sounds like it doesn't sound like you're happy with the end result of what you've chosen, and yet you're still going, you know, I'm thankful I could do this. Really, you're thankful you can end up in a situation that's soul-destroying. Okay, maybe it's just me, but I wouldn't be thankful for that. I'd actually resent that. I kind of think you do resent that, which is why you've written this article. In fact, I'm guessing you really resent this. But I'm just still not qualified to do most of the good and meaningful ones. Well, maybe if you got a different degree, maybe you would be. And good, reading, lucrative, and meaningful are still rather mutually exclusive, short of owning your own business. Well, that's true. Maybe you should own your own business. Particularly if you live in a rugged little hamlet like mine in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. Tell me about your first world problems. I grew up in a household in which my father worked and my mother stayed at home once she'd had children, having worked as a registered nurse. I regarded both working and staying at home as a means to take care of themselves in the interest of each other and our family and to support their own interests and responsibilities. I strive to do the same. My parents were a part of the silent generation. They came to their early adulthood in the 40s and 50s. Yeah, so they're like typical typical sort of American suburban family, you know. Contrast this, if you will, to my husband. He was raised by parents who came into early adulthood in the 1960s. His mother was the steady source of income as a hairdresser, while his father jumped from job to job because keeping him on staff would make him too costly for any given organisation, as my husband will tell it. Yeah, I'm sure that's an excuse too. My husband, who was gainfully employed as an upper management for a retail store when we met, has done similar job hopscotching, repeatedly living for months at a time off of unemployment. Yeah, it's because he can't find a career that he's satisfied in either. You know, he's not prepared to sit there and die at his desk. That's the reason. He now works full-time from home for a part-time income as a travel reservations agent. Well, he loves it as well. Working retail made him want to drink too much, he said. There we go. So instead, he has a wife that hammers away at her soul-extinguishing 9 to 5 and considers having a 1.5 litre bottle of vodka in the house at all times necessary. Right, so what you're saying is, feminism has made you deeply unhappy. Your choice to go out and get a degree and get a shit job and work that job to be the main breadwinner in your house was not a choice you wanted to take. You don't want this. You know, you can sit there and go, well, feminism has made men lazy. No, it's actually giving you options you didn't want. I mean, there is no point having options you don't want. There are millions of options I have that I don't want. I'd go and job for Bridge right now. I don't want that option, so I don't take it. Why did you take an option that you're not going to want? I guess there were just people lying to you along the whole way, right? I too have worked a series of jobs, except I have never skipped a beat between them. I might have had a weekend once, between the last day of my old job and the first day of my new job, but I always quit them willingly, believing I'd found something better. Yes, you're obedient. We understand. Okay, your husband jumps from jobs to jobs, finding himself unemployed for a while because he's not obedient. He fights the system, and you don't. And I know this because I did exactly the same. The kicker is that we have children, which I didn't, for which we should both be equally financially responsible, in my opinion. Well, you're the breadwinner, so you have become the husband. So it's actually you who's financially responsible for your children. That's I know it's terrible, isn't it? And particularly if we're having a hard time making ends meet. Yeah, his part-time earnings are supplementary to yours. You're the breadwinner. Deal with it. But somewhere along the line, my husband decided that his life was for the living, and to heck with virtually everything else. Somewhere along the line, someone told him this was okay. Yeah, it was feminism. Told him he didn't have to be a patriarch. He didn't have to shoulder the burden of responsibility. He didn't have to be the one earning the money and making sure at all times he earns the money. That you've taken on that responsibility. It's terrible, isn't it? I bet you're kicking yourself now. You're thinking, shit, I should have been the wife. Shouldn't have just let my husband be the wife. That was silly. The husband role is a hard role. But the wife's so oppressed, she has to do sometimes things that the husband says. Man, it's almost like this was all justified and I was just being a petulant child. You know? But anyway. So, yeah. Somewhere along the line, feminists told him it was okay. He snowboards, he races cars, he skateboards. Hey, this dude sounds awesome. I want to hang out with him. I work on doing more work by writing, and then I work on opening my own work. Okay? Having gotten as far as I can with limited income and limited time to investigate a few selected entrepreneurial storefront business ideas, all in the means of buying myself more time to be with and take care of my husband and children, which is all I ever really wanted to do in the first place. Shush, don't tell feminism. Oh my fucking god. You're an idiot. You are literally an idiot. You let these people lie to you. You let these people lie to you. All you wanted was to be the fucking wife, and somehow you've ended up as the husband because of feminism, and now you're sitting there going, shit, my husband is having a great time, and I wish that was me. But you fucked up, because now you've got kids, and your husband's probably fucking unemployable. So, geez. You chose the career, love. And so now you're resentful, aren't you? You resent all of this. I'm not surprised. I'd resent it too. This sounds awful. If all you really want to do is spend your time with your children, having to work a dead-end job in a fucking office for all the hours of the day, it sounds awful. I mean, I've had these jobs. They are fucking awful. They're terrible. If you're lucky, you'll have cool co-workers. you probably won't be very lucky. Then you probably have a shit boss, a shit, insecure, middle management boss who takes out their insecurities and takes any opportunity to exercise power over you and relishes it. That's what you'll probably end up with. Luckily for this woman, though, it doesn't sound like she has that, so good for her. But anyway, don't tell feminism that all she wants is to be a housewife, okay? In other words, I do what I must to try and ensure my family's survival and my children's eventual success as responsible human beings. Yes, you're acting like a man. You have become a man. The responsibility is on your shoulders. You aren't just, you're not male. Your husband is male, but he's not a man. He's the wife. You're the man. He's a woman. Let's see where we're going with this. Because this is the thing. These are gender roles, and gender roles are social constructs. I know that people seem to think that because feminists say they're social constructs and can be done away with, that means they're not social constructs. They are social constructs, but they are also necessary for human society. In the same way language is a social construct, but you can't simply do away with language. Anyway, I'm also exhausted. I jokingly once asked my husband about taking me out for a date night when I know neither of us could afford it. We couldn't afford it because he'd been working his travel reservation as a hobby job, and because I prorate half his bills to accommodate his being the smaller earner. Why do you sound so resentful? Of course you fucking do. My wife doesn't work. Who do you think's paying all our bills? For the love of God, don't sound like such a little bitch about it. This is what you signed up for. Believing his promise 14 years ago that he's going to make it big or even just sustainably in car racing if he has just enough flexibility. Yeah, that was 14 years ago. I think like about 10 years ago you could have been like, look, this doesn't work and get a job. He responded by asking why I don't take him out instead. Ouch, thank you feminism, may I have another? Well, you are the husband, so yeah. The men of my parents' generation would have raked my husband over the coals. Yes, they would. The patriarchs of your parents' generation, who were opposed to feminism and you having all of these rights and going out and getting an education, apparently, if the feminist narrative is to be believed, you're now appealing to the patriarchs because you've been in their position, and you're like, they're fucking lazy. They're just lazy, selfish bitches who don't want to have to pull their fucking weight. That's what you're doing right now. We've raked my husband over the coals, but I am stuck having to be thankful for the mind-numbing job I work on, and on which my husband is content to ride, just as sure as he rides his snowboard 4 times a week, and boy do I get an earful from him if a kid is sick and he has to miss a day of snowboarding to take care of them. Then I would give my eye teeth? What the fuck is an eye teeth? To take care of them myself. If one partner is overcompensating to work harder and longer than the other, and you still can't afford to repay your home, put away your savings or afford trash service, something is broken. Okay, right. You are honestly, though, just complaining about your relationship with your husband. This isn't like feminism has made men lazy. Your husband is lazy, and you made the mistake of agreeing to be, your wife is lazy, and you made the mistake of agreeing to be the husband. That's the problem here. This, this probably happens to other women as well, but you can't just say this has made men lazy. Especially as Sweden's trying to desperately get women into the boardroom, for Christ's sake. I can feel my hay fever starting. It's really annoying. Sorry, everyone. So the default profession of women, or of being home or of working in some kind of flexible meaning capacity that still seems to still come so easy for many, has completely eluded me because it seems like society no longer holds men up to their professional standards as they once did, or even to the professional standards that women are now held. Well, it's that society doesn't respect men, and you know why. I mean, this might be a bit of turnabout is fair play, but while girls are busy taught how to be successful in the workplace in addition to being successful in the home, boys are still not taught how to wipe condiment bottles before putting them back in the refrigerator, or how to make a bed, or to not just pull up the covers up, or whatever, right? Yeah, they're not taught how to be wives. You're being taught to be how to be husbands. They're not being taught how to be wives. They're taught that men are equal to women. They are taught to be egalitarians. And so if they see you working, they're like, well, okay, she must want that. I'm just gonna. I don't have to do something. I'm not gonna do something because most of this, and this is the thing about like MGTOW and Herdville Men and stuff. If there's men do things because they have to do things. Jesus Christ! Imagine men in their natural state if they had no outside pressures on them. If they never had to compete for food or for mates or for anything. If they literally lived in like a Star Trek style utopia where just everything was provided for them, you would have the laziest, most indulgent, the most wastrel pathetic males. You wouldn't have men, you would have males. You know, the role of man would disappear. The idea of a self-sacrificing person who is the head of the household and looks after everyone else, that's disappearing. And now that you're living it, you're like, shit, I wish men were doing this. Where was I? Yeah, turnabout is fair play. I would love to be able to opt out financially of supporting my children. Feminist is suddenly pro-financial abortion. That's cracking. Because Lord knows I do plenty of supporting them in every other way already, which is what mothers do. Okay? But to admit as much, and for me to go so far as to do so, would be deemed regressive and irresponsible. That is a luxury now only afforded to men like my husband and an army of mummy bloggers who wax poetic about how much they love their wonderfully providing husbands. Wow, you do sound bitter. I don't want my husband to be doing a half-assed job at homemaking. Yes, I can hold my own in the workplace, but I'd much rather be cleaning my house, running around with my kids, and making meals. Yeah, that's because feminism goes against your natural inclinations. That's why. You're in a free society, that's what you would do if you had the option. I guess you don't live in a free society. You live in a society with huge amounts of social pressure that was apparently put on you by feminists. And you think of yourself as a feminist because you're a fucking ideologue. Actually, I don't even know if this person would be... I don't even think they are an ideologue. Maybe they were an ideologue and now the reality has kind of dislodged them from it, and they're still feminists, but they're like, you know what, there are problems around there. You know, having lived through the problems, maybe feminism isn't the perfect, all-explaining religion that I thought it was. But I love this. I'd much rather be cleaning my house. I find that really interesting because I would rather be working down a coal mine than clean my fucking house. I hate cleaning. I don't know why. I just can't stand it. I would literally rather do anything else. I'm just not bothered if something's not clean. You know, if I had a pile of clothes in the corner, those clothes would sit there until I ran out of clean clothes and I needed something clean to wear. And I only do that because otherwise people are like, ugh, the guy's not wearing clean clothes. I am a slob, I'm not going to lie. Running around with my kids, making meals. I can't do any of those to a degree of satisfaction, and my husband kind of sucks at all those things. Although he tries, sort of, sometimes. And he had apparently given up on work coming first and putting dreams and hobbies second. Which leaves almost no room for anyone else's dreams and hobbies. Read mine. Yeah, welcome to being a husband. If I wanted to have a little bit of flexibility with my time and enjoy taking care of my family now that I have one, I could not have a more opposite arrangement. Yeah. Yeah, and you know those things where it's like, oh, I hardly ever saw my father, he was always at work. Now you know why he was always at work. Now that you know. I mean, fathers would love to spend more time with their kids. Seriously, I would love to see the whole dynamic between men and women shifted. I would love to see all women being the majority, women being the majority of every workplace, men being the majority stay-at-home parents. Right? I can tell you how it fucking goes, all right? Most men would have a regime like this. They would get the kids up, presumably have like a baby and a school-aged one. The school-aged one, they do the school run, you know, 8:30, whatever time it is. Boom, boom, boom. Done. Back by 9 o'clock. Put the baby in like some pen in the living room so they can't go around. You know, with a bunch of toys, so they've got lots of stuff to do. Then spend the next 2 hours doing the house top to bottom. You know, give the kid food every now and again, make sure they've got drinks. Put the TV on, they've got 2 hours to themselves in this sort of pen while the man's cleaning the whole house. He'd fucking blitz the place. Come about lunchtime, give the kid lunch. Here's a sandwich, fucking yogurt, whatever, right? Well, afternoon nap. Internet traffic would soar as Xboxes around 1 o'clock every day. Millions of Xboxes would come on for about an hour, hour and a half. However long you can get away with. Until the kids then woke up. Go... yeah. Then they'd probably take them out and then go and collect the other kid from school. And then prepare for the evening meal. But there would definitely be a fucking regimented thing. And it would be doing as little housework as possible. And that's probably what women do, to be honest. I don't know, because I'm not a woman. I don't stay at home and look after the kids. That's probably what they do, and it would be awesome. I think if men genuinely thought they could get away with being house husbands, they would do it. But I don't think they can do that, because women aren't attracted to that. Women are attracted to men who are successful and, you know, doing well, which is why they were like, well, there aren't enough men with college degrees. If it wasn't about success and power within the world, then that wouldn't matter, would it? But anyway. I could not have a more opposite arrangement. It's though I rolled skee ball, and it's as if stay-at-home mum was the bullseye, but not only did I miss that, but the ball rolled right back over the part-time job slot and dropped past the, you're the breadwinner, yes, this is the choice you made because you're a feminist, and you thought this was a good idea. And it sounds like you hate it because of your natural inclinations. Shrug. Come on. Okay, fuck it. My husband is part of a growing number of men who have discovered the loophole in the feminist movement. The one where we say we'll work, and so they no longer make such an effort to do so in virtually every professional and domestic capacity. Considering how large the problem is, see Hannah Rosen's 2010 Atlantic article, The End of Men, I fear it's more of a social mindset than my husband might be kind of a slacker thing. Either way, I have lost my freedom and feminism has won me no choice. Well done. This is what you're going to get. This is exactly what you're going to get. Because men work because they have to. If they don't have to, they don't work. This is what MGTOW and Herbivore Men are about. Don't worry, you get your half-decent job, it pays for your life, but you don't have pressure pushing you to get a promotion. What's a promotion going to do? If you're a fucking man living alone in the Western world, okay, so you get a job, you can get, like, what, a 2-bedroom house? Do you need it more than a 2? Maybe you get a 3-bedroom house because you're doing quite well. You got, I don't know, 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year maybe. You're doing quite well. You don't have kids. You don't have a wife. You don't have any particular pressures making you do anything different in your life. You're getting into a nice comfortable groove. You're going to have a nice career. You're going to get a nice car. And you're probably going to have quite a lot of money spare. And there's no reason why you would ever advance there. And then you would have... then you have desperate women who are searching around, and why, you don't even have pressure from dating. You've got the pick of the crop there. And this is what feminism has done to women. This is what I mean about being a supremacist movement. And the irony, though, of feminism is so short-sighted. Feminism has got such contempt for men, it cannot empathise with men. It cannot empathise with their position in the world, and has treated them like the oppressors the whole time. I mean, literally, that's literally the feminist opinion of men, is that they're oppressing people, which is why we need more women in the workplace and blah, blah, blah. If you have this opinion of men, obviously you're not going to empathise with them, and so you're obviously not going to know what makes them do what they do. Now this woman can empathise with men. She's lived as a husband, as a man, in her relationship, and now she understands why feminism is a bad thing for women and actually a good thing for men. Feminism has liberated her husband from the pressure of being a man, from the responsibilities of being a man. What you need to do, my love, is get a code of honour. That's what you need to do. You need to find pride in your work. You need to be able to look at your targets and compete with your fellow professional women, and you need to, go for maybe drinks after work or something on your way home. You can do it. Your husband's there, he's got the kids, don't you worry about it. And it's something you can compete with them. And then you can realise why the old boys' networks end up forming. And you can realise that things are like they are, not because of some vast patriarchal conspiracy, because it's all millions of people who are just struggling to get by, day after day. And they do the things they need to do to help them get past the next day, get to the next day, help them get over the stress in their life, the fact that they have to do all of this, the fact that they have to watch the wives. I mean, literally, man, fucking Bill Burr did an amazing thing. He's like, look, it's 2 in-the-afternoon, you're above ground, you're playing in a park with your kids, you're living the fucking dream. That is what everyone should be aiming for. This is what drives me crazy about feminism. Oh, we need more. We've got record numbers of women in the workforce. Is that a good thing? Is it? Is that a good thing? It doesn't sound like a good thing to me. I mean, economists say, yeah, well, the economy's never been larger. It's like, yeah, okay, but there have never been more people working shitty dead-end jobs, wishing their lives were different, but they can't make them different because everyone is working a shitty dead-end job. Nobody's actually getting married and retiring from the workforce. It's not that there's not enough competition for jobs. There's not enough. There's too much competition for jobs. Not enough pressure on the jobs to try and make themselves appealing. And it's just obviously this isn't an advantageous state of affairs for anyone really, apart from the people who own corporations. It's incredibly advantageous for them. They get everything they want, and they get dedicated workers who literally can't leave. and but I look at this. Feminism didn't do anything. Your husband did. Yeah, okay, he wasn't raised by the first generation of feminists in the 70s. She literally said they became adults in the 60s and 70s. They oh my god. Feminism is the cause of this, Gretchen Wieners. Just so you know. I really don't think feminism has to blame for her husband being a lazy ass. Well, it's not directly responsible for him being lazy, but it is indirectly responsible for the situation in which she finds herself as being the husband rather than the wife, where she actually wants to be the wife instead of the husband. That's not because of him being lazy, that's because of feminism telling her that it's okay for her to do that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's okay for her to do that. If that's what she wants, it's okay for her to do that. But it's not what she wants. So why the fuck does she do it? And this one's from 2013, but it was relevant, so I thought I'd bring it up. Young men giving up on marriage. Women aren't women anymore. Now, this will be the last thing that I talk about because it just punctuates what I'm saying about the woman taking on the husband's role in her relationship, right? So fewer young men in the US want to get married than ever, while desire for marriage is rising young women. Because they're looking, I imagine, at the old women and saying, holy shit, I don't want that to be me. Apparently, the number of Pew Research Center found that the number of women 18 to 34 saying that having a successful marriage is one of the most important things rose from 28% to 37% since 1987. The number of young adult men saying the same thing dropped from 35% to 29% in the same time. It's not looking good, is it, feminism? It looks like the natural inclinations of human beings is going to undo you. Pew's findings have caught the attention of one US writer who maintains that feminism, deeply entrenched in every segment of the culture, has created an environment in which young men find it more beneficial to simply opt out of coupledom entirely. Susan Venker's The War on Men, which appeared on the website of Fox News in late November, has become a lodestone for feminist writers who have attacked her position that the institution of marriage is threatened, not enhanced, by the supposed gains of the feminist movement over the last 50 years. But it has, absolutely has. If men have got no pressure to marry, it's not men that want to marry. I mean, men want to marry in a sort of metaphysical, abstract way. You know, wouldn't it be? Yeah, it would be a noble, honourable thing to have, and it would be a nice ideal to say, you know, marry your first love and be with her for the rest of your life. You might be happy. You know, you might think that that's a lovely ideal, that a good marriage for like 30 or 40 years or something would be something to be very proud of, and it would indeed. It would be very proud. Something to be very proud of, but it's not necessarily something they need to get by. You know, what happens if a man doesn't get married? Well, he just gets a job working at minimum wage and pays for himself and lives a nice, happy life on his own. Nothing really happens to that guy. You know, maybe he buys prostitutes or something. I don't know, but nothing really happens to that guy. He still lives a happy life. Whereas women become bogged down, especially if they end up having children. They end up having really difficult lives because that is difficult. You know, they end up choosing a path that ends up making them struggle, and that's not. I wouldn't choose that. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of work. I would never choose that. But where have all the good, meaning marriageable men gone is a question much talked about lately in secular media. Venker says, but her answer, backed up by statistics, is not to the liking of mainstream commentators influenced by feminism, or indeed, as we saw in the last article, feminists themselves who have literally lived through this. She points out for the first time in US history the number of women in the workforce has surpassed the number of men, while more women than men are acquiring university degrees. The problem, this new phenomenon has changed the dance between men and women. With feminism pushing them out of their traditional role of breadwinner, protector and provider, and the divorce laws increasingly creating a dangerous, precarious financial prospect for the men cut loose from marriage, men are simply no longer finding any benefit from it. Should have had the MGTOW article after this one, shouldn't I? But she's absolutely right, though. I mean, this is something that really needs to be kind of culturally discussed without any kind of shaming language involved. You know, it's okay for people to have done this, it's okay for them to have been fooled by feminism, but let's be honest, it's not really helping anyone out, is it? You know, it's not really... It's just going directly against their natural inclinations, and that's... it's creating this kind of cognitive dissonance in the minds of feminists who are literally going, don't tell feminism, but I really wish I was a housewife! Can you even imagine thinking that? God, it's like it would be like, I guess, if you're a man buying into feminism, being a total beta. You've got your hipster glasses. You're like John Maxwell. You hate violent video games. You hate this. But when your feminist, overbearing alpha male girlfriend has gone to bed, yeah, maybe she got herself drunk or something. Who knows? You sit there. You load up Steam. You install Doom. And you sit there blazing away on it going, God, don't tell her. I hope she doesn't come in on me destroying this fucking demon with a chainsaw, but fucking this is amazing. it's a natural impulse and something you gain pleasure from. So it's just a man thing, I guess. And there are women like that as well, but mostly it's men. What are you gonna do? For fuck's sake, stop shaming people for what they feel naturally, for the love of God. But anyway, she also stumbled onto the subculture of men who say in no uncertain terms that they're never getting married. The thing is, right, this is not something new either. This is something to remember. There have always been a subsection of men who don't get married because they more rationally eye up the situation and go, I actually don't need that, And I guess these are men who don't want kids. And as someone with kids, I'm telling you, honestly, I could never. Do you know what's really hard, right? When the Syrian boy, refugee, washed up on that beach, I saw the picture of him and laying down. He looked so much like my son asleep, and I have real trouble looking at that. And I'm telling you, man, once you have kids, it becomes, the idea of living without them is a very hard thing to go through. So not having kids in the first place is certainly an option, but once you have them, it's not that you don't have any regrets of having them. You really don't. I would never, if given the option of never having had kids by like a genie or something, I wouldn't ever feel like I missed the kid or something. I would still not do it. I do feel like my life is incredibly enriched by having my son. But anyway, when I ask them why, the answer is always the same. Women aren't women anymore. Feminism teaches women to think of men as the enemy, has made women angry and defensive, though often unknowingly. Now men have nowhere to go. It's precisely this dynamic, women good, men bad, that has destroyed the relationship between the sexes. Yet somehow men are still to blame when love goes awry. Men are tired, Venka wrote. Tired of being told there's something fundamentally wrong with them. Tired of being told if women aren't happy, it's men's fault. Women not happy, men's fault. Men's fault. See, she's absolutely right. This woman has actually taken the time to empathise with men, ask them what they actually think, and she's actually got an honest answer, because there's no reason for men to lie about this. If your women are acting like husbands, men are not looking for husbands. Men do the things that make a man because they have to, but they're also biologically inclined to do so. Because I imagine of generations and generations of women selecting for men that act in this certain way, then of course they're going to be, the men who do this are going to be biologically inclined to do it. And when they don't have the pressure to do it, then, okay, and they don't even have the option, because the woman has become the husband in their relationship, they're like, okay, well, I'll just chill. I'll just have a great fucking life and enjoy myself. I'm not going to be sexually attractive to my wife, because, what am I going to... Well, I don't do the things that she wants, but... Because I literally don't have that option, but what are you going to do? But, yeah, feminism and the sexual revolution have simply made marriage obsolete for women as a social and economic refuge. But this is a situation that should not be celebrated by feminists. It's the women who lose. Not only are they saddled with the consequences of sex, by dismissing male nature they are forever seeking a balanced life. The fact is, women need men's linear career goals. They need men to pick up the slack at the office in order to live the balanced life they seek. A cross-section of research data from the Pew Research Center in the last months of 2012 showed alarming trends for marriage and childbearing in the US. One report published mid-December said that the latest census data showed barely half of all adults in the United States are currently married, a record low. Since 1960, the number of married adults has decreased from 72% to 51% today, and the number of new marriages in the US has declined by 5% between 2009 and 2010. Moreover, the median age at first marriage continues to rise, with women getting married for the first time at 26.5 years and men at 28.7. The declines in marriage are most dramatic among young adults. Just 20% of those aged 18 to 29 married, compared with 59% in 1960. If the current trends continue, the share of adults who are currently married will drop to below half within a few years. Moreover, the link between marriage and child rearing has become disconnected in the minds of so-called millennial generation, those between 18 and 29, while 52% of millennials say that being a good parent is one of the most important things. Half the millennials don't even think being a good parent is one of the most important things. Unbelievable. If you have kids, being a good parent is the most important thing, because if you're not a good parent, you're going to screw your child up. The mistakes you make as a parent are the neuroses your child has to carry through adulthood. That's how it is. So being a half-decent parent is minimising the chances of any severe neuroses. But yeah, so basically, feminism's really screwing things up for women, and I can see why there are so many men who are just like, well, I don't care. This is what you chose. Now you're gonna have to live with it until you start giving these men some respect. Apparently, until you start actually treating them like men and treating men as not an inherent evil, then this isn't going to change. It's going to carry on. But feminism does nothing but treat masculinity as an inherent evil. And they always say, well, I mean, we're not against men. It's like, well, being against masculinity is being against men. You're not against males. You're not against the male sex. You're more than happy to take in all of the beta male cucks you want and whip them, put chain around their neck and say, right, these are feminist men. They're not masculine, so they're, feminist men is not a man. A feminist man is a feminist male. Men is a social construct that is constructed out of essential biological realities and the reality of the world around us. And if men aren't being produced anymore, and men it is that women are attracted to, then of course they're going to be less happy. They're going to be married less. They're not. This is something feminism has fucked up and needs to address. And it all comes down to the basic precept of feminism is that they do hate men. It was created by man-haters for man-haters as a way of attacking the male gender, as attacking the male social construct in society. That's what feminism was for by the women who made it. And okay, now you've done it. Now you're reaping the results of it. And what's happening? Women aren't happy. Well, there we go. Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. I'll speak to you later.